Creator. All of these words testify to the one God, the one life, the one love, and the one Spirit. And this one is what manifests itself in and through creation. It is not absorbed by it. As part of that creation, each of us holds a seed of the divine at the center of our own being. Each of us is a unique manifestation of that same incarnation of the divine. Thus, in our deepest reality, we see everyone as part of oneness, part of the one Spirit, the one God. Thus, it seems appropriate that Woodland Chapel host the Oneness Coalition here today. We would call these myths, yet whether we take them literally or figuratively, together they lead us to consider the close relationship mankind has both to God and to the earth. In our very existence, even in our spiritual inspiration, there is some part of an earth life. Our first speaker is Reverend Dr. Jane Parker. She's a senior. If the speaker's presentations haven't been treat enough, we have a congregational song, I believe, that comes up next. And I know that Reverend Rena Smith was the music director at Unity Church for a number of years and is more than competent to lead us in song. Take it away.
So this is a beautiful song to help us focus on what we'd like to see, what we'd like our walk on this earth to be. So feel free to sit back and relax and let the words wash over you, or if you'd like to sing along, on the back of your program you have the words. It's called In Beauty May I Walk.
All day long, may I walk through the seasons, may I walk
like to stand, we're going to close singing "Let There Be Peace on Earth," and the words for that are on the back of your bulletin.
Just before you start, there is an elevator if you should need it to go downstairs. We can show you how to operate it. It's real simple, but it's good.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
Greetings today on behalf of First Congregational United Church of Christ in Salem. It is an honor and a pleasure to be with you today in this beautiful interfaith service on a theme of critical importance and shared concern for all people of conscience. One of the things I've been reflecting on in the last few years is the question of what it means to be human now on this planet, where we have been drastically changing the very planet on which we live by our human activity. I've been reflecting on how our dominant culture's way of being human has become dysfunctional for for the earth community, for our planet. And I wonder, and I want to reflect with you on how we might recover a way of being human that remembers how to live in communion with earth, how to be a blessing to the earth rather than living against the grain of life. Some years ago, the United Nations, you may recall, developed an environmental Sabbath program. And at that time, they offered this prayer. We have forgotten who we are. We have sought only our own security. We have exploited simply for our own ends. We have abused our power. We have forgotten who we are. Now the land is barren, and the waters are poisoned, and the air is polluted. We have forgotten who we are. Christians celebrate the gift of the Holy Spirit to the church on the day of Pentecost. And many other faith traditions have an understanding of the presence of the divine permeating the world as spirit. And yet, in our very practice of remembering the gift of the Spirit on Pentecost, we Christians experience a profound amnesia about what that gift of the Spirit actually is. In fact, what modern Western Christians, and I suspect people of many faith traditions or spiritual traditions, think of as a disembodied spirit is actually profoundly embodied, according to Hebrew and Christian scriptures. Perhaps if we could recover a more robust understanding of this spirit, we would be a blessing again to earth. The Bible reveals the sacred spirit as a phenomenon that manifests the unity of matter and spirit, body and soul that we today so desperately need. Some of you probably already know that the Hebrew word for spirit, ruach, also means wind and breath. In the second verse of the first chapter of Genesis, we read that God's ruach was sweeping over the face of the primordial waters. Translators have tied themselves into knots trying to decide how to translate ruach. Is it a wind from God? Is it the breath of God? What is this ruach? Well, in fact, the ancient Hebrews knew that it was both. God's Spirit took the very form of wind, air that moves and brings life, enlivening and cleansing the earth. Similarly, the Greek word pneuma, which is used in the New Testament, also means spirit, wind, and breath. And that leads me to ask, how often do you stop and think about air? How often do any of us spare a thought for the involuntary act of breathing? Now, I know the Buddhists among us spend a lot of time thinking about breathing, but how often do the rest of us think about breathing? Have you ever thought of the way that our very breath connects us to spirit, to the divine? Have you thought of the wind as the presence of sacred spirit filling our world? For most of us, it takes a conscious effort to think about the importance of air and breath. And we might not think about it until we struggle for breath during a time of illness, or witness a brown smog smothering a city, or get hit with a blast of exhaust from a truck in front of our car. But even then, does it occur to us to think of air as a spiritual presence? This is exactly how the ancient Hebrews and Native Americans, indigenous peoples today experience the air. The Haudenosaunee Iroquois include thanksgiving to the wind in their most important prayer, known as the Thanksgiving Address. They express their gratitude to the wind in this way. We are all thankful to the powers we know as the four winds. We hear their voices in the moving air as they refresh us and purify the air we breathe. They help to bring the change of seasons. From the four directions, they come bringing us messages and giving us strength. With one mind, we send our thanks to the four winds. In his book, The Spell of the Sensuous, David Abram explores how modern Western peoples came to divorce the spirit from the sensuous world. He writes, in the world of modernity, the air has become the most taken for granted of all phenomena. The invisibility of the atmosphere, far from leading us to attend to it more closely, now enables us to neglect it entirely. Lacking all sacredness, stripped of all spiritual significance, the air is today little more than a conveniently forgotten dump for a host of gaseous effluents and industrial pollutants. And yet, as Abram also beautifully writes, this unseen enigma, the air, is the very mystery that enables life. What the plants are quietly breathing out, we animals are breathing in. What we breathe out, the plants are breathing in. The air, we might say, is the soul of the visible landscape, the secret realm from whence all beings draw their nourishment. When we can recover from our amnesia and begin to pay attention, we see that inspiration and respiration are inseparably linked. No wonder ancient cultures and indigenous peoples today experience the air as a sacred living presence. No wonder Ruach was God's spirit and at the same time wind and breath. How would we treat the air differently if we remembered that every breath is an intake of God's creative spirit that sustains all that is? If people of faith could unite around this insight, perhaps we could be a source of blessing to our battered world. As we breathe in sacred spirit through all of our practices of prayer and meditation and spiritual centering, let us also breathe out God's spirit into a world struggling for breath in acts of advocacy, peace, and environmental justice. Amen.
Good afternoon. I am the replacement speaker of the replacement speaker. I'm very happy to be here with you this afternoon. One of the most beautiful images in Buddhist iconography is the earth-touching Buddha. This is a seated Buddha with the fingertips of his right hand extended, gently touching the ground. The story is that after his enlightenment underneath the Bodhi tree, the Buddha was challenged one last time by a demon called Mara, who was representative of all of the Buddha's doubts and fears. Mara claimed the earth as his own domain and said that now that the Buddha had transcended that realm, that he should leave it. In reply, the Buddha called on the earth to bear witness by touching his hand to the ground, at which the earth shook in recognition of his right to be there. The forces of Mara disappeared, and the Buddha's enlightenment was complete. Buddhism has always had this profound connection with the natural world. all of the significant episodes in the Buddha's life, his birth, enlightenment, his key teachings, and his death, all occurred outdoors under trees. The Buddha often advised his disciples to seek out lonely forest groves in which to meditate. There is, in Buddhist tradition, a deep recognition that humankind is an integrated part of nature. The free, wild spaces of the earth refresh, calm, and revitalize the spirit. Who hasn't felt uplifted by a quiet walk in the woods? In contrast, much of the spirit of modern civilization is based on a separation and an alienation from nature. Much of our material culture is devoted to separating us from the living earth. Our great cities, with all their comforts and conveniences, can often be very alienating places, and the result of our insulation from nature is all too often mental and spiritual dis-ease. There is a physical price to pay as well, in the form of polluted air and polluted water. Living in a modern city, it is all too easy to ignore the connections of our activities with the rest of the planet. We can try to overcome this by reflecting on the web of which we and our technologies are a part. When you plug your toaster into the wall, where is the energy coming from? What are the results of the way in which it was generated? When you flush the toilet, where is the water coming from? And where is the waste going to? Where did your morning cup of coffee come from? And how did it get all the way to your cup? Buddhism teaches that nothing exists independently, that the existence of all things is interdependent. Our existence as human beings depends on the earth, air, water, and other forms of life. And just as our existence depends on and is conditioned by those things, they are also conditioned by our existence. The way we think of ourselves as being separate from earth and air and nature is part of our essential ignorance according to Buddhist teachings. The many different things, rocks, flowers, babies, and also asphalt and car exhaust are expressions of us, and we are expressions of them. The environmentalist slogan of thinking globally and acting locally is also very good dharma. In Buddhist philosophy, we think globally by contemplating the interbeing of all things. Nothing exists except in relationship with other things. And we act locally by living mindfully with clear comprehension of the purposes and consequences of even our smallest actions. I will leave you with the words of Thich Nhat Hanh. And by the way, today happens to be Thich Nhat Hanh's 89th birthday. This is from his book, The World We Have, a Buddhist approach to peace and ecology. It is wonderful to realize that we are all in a family. We are all children of the earth. We should take care of each other, and we should take care of our environment. And this is possible with the practice of being together as a large family. A positive change in individual awareness will bring about a positive change in the collective awareness. Protecting the planet must be given first priority. I hope that you will take the time to sit down with each other, have tea with your friends and your family, and discuss these things. Invite the Bodhisattva Earthholder to sit and collaborate with you. Then make your decision to act to save our precious planet. Changing your way of living will bring you a lot of joy right away. And with your first mindful breath, healing will begin.
Greetings and salutations. I'm so happy to be able to speak after Brother Gordon spoke. In our science, we are sometimes called the Western Buddhism because of our wonderful approach to that mind understanding of life. And I too am a practicing Buddhist as well as a practicing religious scientist. So as a practitioner and a minister in religious science, I see humanity's part in living on this Mother Earth as stewards, taking stewardship of her bountiful fruits and her treasures. And I believe we're on the cusp of evolving our relationship with our planet home from a role of plundering and using to being transformers, to transforming and stewarding the planet's generous resources. I think we're participating in a worldwide collaborative right now to help our brothers and sisters all over the world in all the faith practices we call it to create a world that works for everyone, everywhere. And I further believe that the earth is a sacred reality. The voices in time have spoken of the immanence of spirit in the natural world. Every notion we have of the divine has been shaped by our experiences on this planet. Just think into it. Every notion we have of the divine. If we have this wonderful sense of the divine, it's because we live amid such beauty and such potential beauty. Clearly, the natural beauty and the glorious of this glorious globe that's hanging out here in dark space really is our primary revelatory environment. In fact, our most sacred scripture, I think, is the holy book of nature. Now, I know many of our human family hold that there is a valid distinction between spirit and matter. But the truth that we look at is that the two are inseparable. The religious science projects this idea in holding that spirit and matter are not two different realms of reality, but just simply two different layers of this universe that is a part of the oneness. Instead, what happens is that same reality will be only material or only spiritual depending on how we approach it. It is perspective. No matter where we immerse ourselves in the stream of this reality, we can touch the spiritual source of all that is natural. Until recently, the holiness of the earth has been largely forgotten, as spoken of earlier by our first speaker. In the most modern industrial cultures, under the worldview of secular materialism, the land has become mere real estate, and the animals and the trees simply resources to be used for our benefit. In pursuing this utilitarian and commercial relationship, we destroyed places of more beauty and diverse life than we will ever be able to recreate or restore. However, things are changing. I think the attitude toward Earth has begun to really change. It's prevalent in what we have here today in this meeting. Increasingly around the world, people are expressing their determination to protect and restore the beauty of this unique planet, this Earth, and all the diversity of its life. The madness of the destruction has come home to us. We see it. His Holiness Bartholomew I, the Archbishop of Constantinople in New Rome, he's declared in these words, it was back in the spring of the year 1998, but he said simply, nailing it when he said to commit a crime against the natural world, I think is a sin. And this statement was greeted as an unprecedented defense of the environment by the religious leader of a major international church. And with great promise, this Greek Orthodox patriarch does not stand alone in recognizing that the environmental abuse must stop. His voice is being joined by millions of others, all poets, teachers, ministers, priests, activists, all calling for the healing. As environmentalist Stephanie Mills writes these words, I love this, she says, the sacred in nature is finding a voice audible and intelligible to our moment. It is our restoration to a timeless understanding, and now a new era can begin. This is an inspiring vision, one for our deepening recognition of the sacred in nature, and opening, I think, an immense knowledge that could guide us in the centuries to come. Most assuredly, we cannot continue to this myopic pursuit of even more economic growth, which is based only on the depletion of the earth's treasures. Now, however much it may disturb the outdated goals of our political and business leaders, we must learn to build a sustainable society that recognizes the sacred in nature, and we must install new vision that embraces responsible stewardship of resources, stewardship of this entire planet. This is the time in our generation where history can look back from the future generations and see that we chose a freedom of action to create lives of honest, authentic nobility and wholesome respect for this planet that we call our home among the stars. So in closing, I want to share with Mary Vineyard of New Mexico, a simple lady with an 8th grade education, become a poet, writes about her love and blessings to Mother Earth. She wrote in these simple words. She said, they say there will be new heavens and then a new earth. And I say these old ones are good enough for me. They have been around for hardly more than a blink in the cosmic eye. They're certainly not old enough to just throw them away. We do seem to get tired of the pain sometimes, a sweat of our own frailness, and the fear overcomes us. But I swear, she says, I have seen angels cry from envy because we can walk barefoot in the grass. And this place of mountain and valley and deserts is good and glorious, and I believe ultimately forgiving. We in our little planet minds have been foolish, small-minded, even cruel, but dear, sweet Earth keeps composting everything, even our sins and our mistakes. Yes, she's going to say, red worms and vultures are our best confessors, and in the end, maybe we will be converted to their true faith. Some say this is all illusion, but in the meantime, Earth is beautiful, solid beneath us. And the sun, and the moon, and the rain, and the stars, and the wind are blessing us. And if we only learn to receive life's smile to the earth's giving, and give it right back in full measure, loving it all will be okay. I'm sure of it. Something ancient and good is felt in my bones. And the mother turns faithfully so that all her children can feel the sun. So let us be thankful upon her breast, and let us be kind to our mother. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here in this beautiful chapel. I'm humbled by the words I've heard so far. God bless you, God bless this holy place, and God bless the world. I like to begin with a prayer revealed by Abdu'l-Baha, who is the center of the covenant of our faith. O God, educate these children. These children are the plants of thine orchard, the flowers of thy meadow, the roses of thy garden. Let thy rain fall upon them. Let the sun of reality shine upon them with thy love. Let thy breeze refresh them, in order that they may be trained, grow, and develop, and appear in the utmost beauty. Thou art the giver, thou art the compassionate. I begin with that prayer because it's one of my favorite. I have 4 children and 4 grandchildren, and they all know this prayer. It shows the relationship that we have with the earth, and this relationship began in the beginning. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So I wanted to start in the beginning. So God created the heavens and the earth. And we have the sun, because God said, let there be light. In this relationship to man, I liken it to the body, the mind, and the soul. We have the ability to see, the ability to consider, and the ability to perceive or understand things that weren't understood yesterday, we understand today. For example, sight. They've discovered that if a child is unable to use their sight within a certain amount of time, they lose the ability to develop it. So if a child is kept in darkness for, I think it's a period of 2 months, I could be wrong, I probably am, they lose the ability to develop sight. So we must protect the very faculties of our children, as well as our earth, and make sure that they have what they need to develop accordingly. And as the tiny seedling grows into a plant, so do children grow into young adults. And they must be nurtured along the way. They must be pruned and disciplined towards the straight path. If they start kind of bending over to the side and growing that way, we tend to prop them up with something even more sturdy than them, so that they can regain their strength and grow towards the light as intended. And then the fruits of the plants we already know. Berries and nuts and avocados, pineapples. Not all of them are apples and oranges. Same as with human beings. We have our fruits as well. We have a lot of nuts. Some are apples and a lot of lemons. But then we have mangoes, and we have salmon berries and blueberries and unlimited supply of good fruits. So the relationship between earth and humanity, if you go back to the beginning, you can see the oneness that exists between them and the tie that binds them. The soul, with its ability to perceive, I don't know what that looks like in the world of earth. I only know what it feels like to me as a human being. I often wonder in the fall when the other day when it was a perfect day to go fishing. Foggy out, a little bit misty, not too hot, no sun. And I wondered, does the tree know every leaf it's lost in the fall? Does it grieve for each leaf that falls? Or does it remember every leaf that's ever been born of its limbs? I don't know. That's a mystery to me. But I do know that I have the capability and the capacity to perceive my heritage and my family and my community. Does one leaf laugh at another leaf across the other side? I have more sun. I don't know, but I don't hear that from them. Somebody might, I don't. So I'm reminded that we are all the leaves of one tree, and that we need to allow ourselves the freedom to spread and grow without ridicule, without things that don't bear good fruits. So I'm reminded of the relationship between earth and man, and the oneness that unites them. And I pray that the unity of each continues, even more so because it's necessary, even more so now than ever before in the history of the world. We are in big trouble, and we all know. And so I say this prayer in closing. And this prayer is by Baha'u'llah, founder of the Baha'i Faith. And Baha'u'llah translated means glory of God. O thou who art the Lord of Lords, I testify that thou, the Lord of all creation, and the educator of all beings, visible and invisible, I bear witness that thy power hath encompassed the entire universe, and that the hosts of the earth can never dismay thee, nor can the dominion of all peoples and nations deter thee from executing thy purpose. I confess that thou hast no desire except the regeneration of the whole world, and the establishment of the unity of its peoples, and the salvation of all them that dwell therein. Thank you, and God bless you.
I guess I took up my minutes getting up here. I'm glad to be here today. I've never been in this type of service before. And at first it was hard for me to get something together to preach on such a subject. But I managed. Yeah. This is just a few viewpoints in regards to the earth from the Native Americans. Now the Bible tells us that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 tells us that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Psalm 24 verse 1 tells us that the earth is the Lord's and all its fullness. In Acts chapter 17 verse 26. Now Paul made a big statement this way by addressing a group of philosophers at Athens at Mars Hill by saying, and he has made from one blood every nation of men to dwell on all the face of the earth, and has determined their pre-appointed times and the boundaries of their dwellings. Paul says also that God brought all people into being, and they only exist by his providence. So this wonderful universe was created by God with all this beautiful earth. trees, flowers, vegetables, and all of mankind for our enjoyment and blessings. Genesis chapter 1 verse 9 tells us that after God let the water various kinds. And in Genesis chapter 1 verse 24 he said, let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds. Now, when I used to read that, I said, now, what is ironic to me is that the natives believed and spoke of this phenomenon long before the missionaries came and tried to make believers out of them. They believed in their own way. The way that they believed that the Creator was showing them. Now, in the book that I have in my little library called White Man's Gospel, written by Craig Stephen Smith, he says this: all Native American tribes, in all of them, there was a deep spiritual basis to their whole life. To a traditional Native American, everything about his or her life and existence is spiritual. Another characteristic of the traditional Native was his or her reverence for the land. Natives referred to the earth as their mother, and they honor the land with the same honor a mother is due. Now, I realize that some natives have probably gotten away from that belief, just like all nationalities have older beliefs, and some of their people have gotten away from some of their beliefs. The natives had strong belief in the earth as mother, and that is why the dominant society's concept of buying and selling land was very foreign to the native person. How do you cut up and sell your mother? The Native Americans' traditional and early view was to share the land with the new arriving immigrants. The early traditional natives were deeply rooted in their culture. They believed that everything was sacred, from the largest mountain to the smallest plant and animal. Native spirituality is about honor, love, and respect, and this includes our Creator and Mother Earth. A good American Indian commandment was to treat Earth and all that dwell thereon with respect. We should respect this great earth, moon, stars, because this is what our Creator blessed us with. He gave us dominion over the fish of the sea. He gave us dominion over the birds of the air and over the cattle, over all earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. Hey, we're in charge. He gave us that dominion. In an article for the Intertribal Times, written in October, way back 1994, it was called the Native Code of Ethics. And in there were 12 codes given. I would like to just share 2 of them. First of all, one of the codes tells us, treat the earth and all her aspects as your mother. Show deep respect for the mineral world, the plant world, and the animal world. Do nothing to pollute our mother, and rise up with wisdom to defend her. And then the second code I'm going to use. All races and tribes in the world are like the different colored flowers of one meadow. All are beautiful. As children of the Creator, they must all be respected. In 1868, Chief Luther, standing there from the Teton Sioux, he stated this: the old people came literally to love the soil, and they sat or reclined on the ground with a feeling of being close to a mothering power. It was good for the skin to touch the earth. I'm not saying try that today. I don't know how true that is today. But it was good then for the skin to touch the earth. And the old people, they liked to remove their moccasins and walk with bare feet on the sacred earth. He can see more clearly that way into the mysteries of life and come closer in kinship to other lives about him while sitting or lying upon the ground. Now remember, this was written in 1868. Now why can't we love and respect the earth that our Creator called good in the same way today? We say, why is there so much hunger, homelessness, etc.? Guess what? Our Creator has given us enough land, water, trees, etc., to help every man, woman, boy, and girl in the whole world. What do? Share. Share. Share the technology we have. Share with money, etc. to get that way. For one and all. He did not give us the world so that, these are my numbers, just 10% would have all the land, all the water, all the gold, etc. to enjoy, and the other 90% to go their own way and try to do the best you can. But we all need to learn to respect, honor, and love our Creator and Mother Earth more than our peace walks, worship gatherings, fun times, etc. like we have today, which by the way is good, but keep them secondary. Actually, I don't know why we are still doing this after thousands of years. Our Creator blessed us with all these good things: air, sky, stars, etc. Gave us the earth to survive by planting and growing for food. And we still have to have our marches, etc. to try to help people to become aware of something given to us thousands of years ago. I don't understand that. We have used land, water, air, mountains, and so on for pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. Second homes, beach homes, golf courses, sports games, etc. before we use it on the Creator's people, regardless of where they live in this world. People are still homeless, and in countries outside of this country, people are still living on dry, dirty lands, alleys, etc. The 10% of the people in their countries are doing the same as what is being done everywhere. Instead of making sure we have places for pleasure, we need to share with the Creator's people first with what He gave all of us, so that they can live, eat, have clean water, etc. We've been in this one spot for long enough. We should have moved years ago. Instead, we are still using the words shortage, the earth needs us, killing, disrespectful, dirty water, homeless. We're still using those same words after thousands of years. The earth for the enjoyment of us all. That's what it's for. So stop destroying the earth. Respect it. And I know my time is up, so I'm going to leave the rest of this I have alone. And just go ahead and give to you, close this with a Native American prayer. And this is by Chief Yellowlark Lakota. He says, "O great Spirit, whose voice I hear in the winds, and whose breath gives life to all the world, hear me. I am small and weak. I need your strength and wisdom. Let me walk in beauty and make my eyes ever behold the red and purple sunset. Make my hands respect the things you have made, and my ears sharp to hear your voice. Make me wise so that I may understand the things you have taught my people. Let me learn the lessons you have hidden in every leaf, in every rock. I seek strength, not to be greater than my brother, but to fight my greatest enemy, myself. Make me always ready to come to you with clean hands and straight eyes. So when light fades as the fading sunset, my spirit may come to you without shame. Thank you for listening.
Navneet Kaur, representing the Smith Sarvarsik Temple. It's on Commercial Street. I am not a speaker. I'm just here because I'm the only one who could be here. So forgive me, please, if I don't sound like a speaker.
But you are speaking. You are speaking.
You're the one.
The Lord infused His light into the dust and created the world, the universe, the sky, the earth, the trees, and the water, all in the creation of Lord. SAGs, as Sri Guru Granth Sahib, that's the sixth scripture written on page 723. The six scriptures, Guru Granth Sahib declares the purpose of human being is to achieve a blissful state and to be in harmony with earth and all of God's creation. The Sikh Gurus showed the world the way to live in harmony with the environment, and all their constructions adhere to the principle. Guru Har Rai, the seventh Guru, developed Kirtpur Sahib as town of parks and gardens, located on the banks of the tributary of Satluj. He planted flowers, fruits, bearing trees all over the area. He created a salubrious environment, attracting beautiful birds to the town and turning into an idyllic place to live in. The six scriptures emphasize the importance of elements in this Shabad. Pavan Guru Pani Pita, Mata Tat Mahat, Divs Raat Doedai Daya Khele Sagar Jagat. The day and the night are two nurses in whose lap all the world is at play. Air is the Guru, water is the Father, earth is the great mother of all. The importance of air, water, and earth to life are emphasized over and over again in the Guru Granth Sahib. The earth is referred to as mother and as such requires our respect. Great care needs to be taken to ensure that no damage occurs to it while the Sikhs are going through their daily lives. The pollution of these three elements is against the principle laid down by the Gurus. On page 723 again, the Guru says, Paun Pani Tarti Akas Karmandar Harbani, means air, water, earth, and sky. The Lord has made this His home and temple. He resides in them. God, Lord manifests through these things. Lord manifests through creation. The sacred places, God's home and temple, and our earth and sky, in which need to be protected and looked after. The Sikh Gurus built many gurdwaras surrounded by large pools which supported marine life, especially fish. This was clearly a sign to live in harmony with nature rather than to conflict with it. Men, trees, pilgrimage places, banks of sacred streams, clouds, fields, islands, spheres, universes, continents, solar systems, the sources of creation, egg-born, womb-born, earth-born, sweet-born, sweat-born oceans, mountains, and sentient beings. He, the Lord, knows their condition, O Nanak. Nanak, having created beings, the Lord takes care of them all. The Creator who created the world, He takes thought of it as well. The world, like all creations, is a manifestation of God. Every creation in this world, every plant, every form is a manifestation of Creator. Each part of God, and God is within each element of creation. God is the cause of it all, and He is the primary connection between existence. The Creator created Himself and then created all creation in which He manifests. You yourself, the bumblebee, flower, fruits, and tree. You yourself, the water, desert, ocean, and pond. You yourself are the big fish totems and the cause of causes. Your form cannot be known. In the world God has created, He has provided each species and humans with means of support and nurturing. In Sikh beliefs, a concern for the environment is a part of it as an integrated approach to life and nature. As all creation has the same origin and the end, humans must have consciousness of their own place in creation and their relationship with the rest of the creation. Humans should conduct themselves through life with love, compassion, and justice. Becoming one and being one in harmony with God implies the human endeavors to live in harmony with all of God's creation. And now I feel I've started stammering. This is an indication I should say goodnight.
It's a pleasure to be here today with everyone. I'd like to thank Alice for leading us over here in the lovely walk that we had, and to thank Preetam for his vision in creating the 34 Days for Peace, and Moore and his congregation for having us here in the Woodland Chapel. I've never been inside the Woodland Chapel before, and I'm enjoying this lovely space, and I've always, as a longtime Salem resident, have just thought that this is a beautiful enclave in Salem, and we're very fortunate to have it here. The Quaker tradition, or the Society of Friends, started in England in the 17th century, which was a time of a lot of unrest. There was, the king was murdered, there was plague, there was the Great Fire of London. So many radical societies came into being at that time, and the Quakers are one that had survived. George Fox was credited as the main leader of that, and he was a fearless and charismatic person who believed that each of us has a divine spark inside of us. So I have a brief quote from him, which is that God who made the world did not dwell in temples made with hands. That's from George Fox in 1646. He later came to this country, as did a number of his followers, and probably the best known of them is William Penn, who was a wealthy man in England who got a significant land grant in this country and established the colony of Pennsylvania. And what for me is significant about that particularly is that from the beginning in that colony there was religious tolerance, there was honoring of treaties with Native people, there was a different way of doing things than in much of the country. And that's part of our legacy, of our American legacy, that I think we can draw on in this time and really need to. So I have another quote from William Penn from 1693. It would go a long way to caution and direct people in their use of the world, that they were better studied and knowing in the creation of it. For how could they find the confidence to abuse it, while they should see the great Creator stare them in the face in all and every part of it? And now I'm going to skip forward about 3 centuries to some modern friends groups, Society of Friends groups that are concerned about working for caring for the environment. And I'll mention too that the organization Greenpeace, founded in 1969, was started partly by members of the Society of Friends in Vancouver, British Columbia. And the part of their legacy that I think is visibly related to the Quaker tradition is their commitment to bearing witness and to direct nonviolent action. So that's very much a part of how Quakers hope to show up in the world. And I have a short story about Greenpeace, drew inspiration from a Cree Indian legend which predicted that one day people of all races would rise up together to defend the earth from exploitation and destruction. These warriors of the rainbow would bring back the native perspective and unite all people for the good of the planet. I thought that's just something we ought to know about the Greenpeace. The other group that I'll say a few things about before I finish is called the Quaker Earth Care Witness, that was started in 1987 in the western part of this country. And I'll read some of their statement here. We recognize a personal and collective responsibility to ensure the poorest and most vulnerable peoples now and all our future generations do not suffer as a consequence of our actions. We see this as a call to conscience. We recognize connections between climate change and global economic injustice, as well as unprecedented levels of consumption, and question assumptions of unlimited material growth on a planet with limited natural resources. We seek to nurture a global human society that prioritizes the well-being of people over profit and lives in right relationship with our earth. A peaceful world with fulfilling employment, clean air and water, renewable energy, and healthy, thriving communities and ecosystems. As members of this beautiful human family, we seek meaningful commitments from our leaders and ourselves to address climate change for our shared future, the earth and all species, and the generations to come. We see this earth as a stunning gift that supports life. It is our only home. Let us care for it again.
It's good to see you. Thank you for coming in. We started our afternoon with a meditative peace walk, channeling, acknowledging our connection to the earth with every step. When we came here and we heard our presenters, everyone from a different tradition, standing back thinking about the words I was hearing. And people were talking about stewardship and our relationship to the earth and how we're, no matter what tradition we're part of, we're here for the reason of taking care of the earth and each other. Nothing is alone. We are all interrelated. And that's the big takeaway for me. And that's why the Oneness Coalition began in the first place. Is the fact that we come together, we worship together, we share each other's teachings, and we help to make the world a little better place to live. We carry that forward from here out into the world. Acting upon that every day, we can make a difference. That's the whole point of these types of services. Thank you for hosting and inviting us. It's been our pleasure to work with Moore and his congregation. What a wonderful experience it has been. Ask you to come downstairs, socialize, talk with our speakers, folks from the congregation. Get to know each other. Think of ways that we can work together, regardless of what faith background we have. Figuring ways we can work together in our community, in our families. Neighbors down the street, what can we do today, tomorrow, to make the world a little better place to live. Help Salem live up to its name, City of Peace. And in that process, the world will be a better place. And the sign about ye shall be the fruits of one tree. We are the fruits of one tree. That's what I'd like to take away from you. I hope you can do the same. Thank you.